Commander Jake Morrison stood in front of the big screen on Titan's Gate. The space station was Earth's main defense post, floating far from home in the cold darkness. Jake watched the green dots move across his screen. Each dot was a ship from somewhere else in the galaxy. For 15 years, Earth had been part of the Galactic Council. The council was made up of 12 different alien races. They ruled most of the galaxy. Humans were the newest members, and everyone knew they were not really welcome. The other races saw humans as useful workers and soldiers, but nothing more. Jake's radio made a soft beep. A message was coming in from Dr. Lisa Carter on Earth. Lisa was Earth's top expert on alien life. She studied the different races and how they lived. "Jake, I need to talk to you right away." Lisa's voice sounded worried. "It's about the council. Something bad is happening." Jake pressed a button. "What is it, Lisa? You sound scared." "I am scared," she said. "I got a secret message from my friend on the council's homeworld. The council voted on something yesterday. Something about humans." Jake felt his stomach get tight. "What kind of vote?" "They call it the Human Limitation Protocols," Lisa said. Her voice was shaking. "Jake, they want to lock us up in our own solar system. No more exploring. No more new colonies. And they want to stop us from making better technology." "That's crazy," Jake said. "We've been good members of the council. We followed their rules." "That's not why they're doing this," Lisa said. "My friend told me the real reason. They're afraid of us, Jake. They see how fast we learn and grow. They think we might become too powerful." Jake looked at the screen again. Those green dots suddenly looked different. They were not just ships anymore. They were enemies watching Earth. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. 30 days, Lisa said. "They're sending an ambassador to Earth tomorrow. He'll give us the official message. Accept their limits, or face war." Jake closed his eyes. War with the Galactic Council meant war with 12 different alien races. Earth had good ships and brave soldiers, but the Council had thousands of worlds and millions of ships. "I have two. Call Admiral Brooks," Jake said. Admiral Kyle Brooks was the head of Earth's space forces. He was an old soldier who had fought in many battles. When Jake called him, Brooks listened without saying a word. "Are you sure about this?" Brooks asked when Jake finished. "Lisa's friend has never been wrong before," Jake said, "and it makes sense. We've been growing too fast for them." Brooks was quiet for a long moment. "Call President Johnson. Tell her we need an emergency meeting." And Jake, "Yes, sir. Don't tell anyone else about this yet. If word gets out, people will panic." The next day, a council ship arrived at Earth. It was huge and black, with strange curves that hurt to look at. Jake watched from Titan's Gate as the ship moved toward Earth like a giant predator. The alien ambassador was named Sectar. He belonged to a race that looked like walking lizards. His skin was green and covered in small scales. His eyes were yellow and cold. Sectar met with Earth's leaders in the big conference room in Geneva. Jake watched the meeting on a secure video link. President Amy Johnson sat at one end of the table. She was a small woman, but she was not afraid. "Ambassador Sectar," she said, "welcome to Earth." Sectar did not smile. His race could not smile anyway. "President Johnson, I bring word from the Galactic Council." He put a small device on the table. It made a blue light that showed words in the air. The words were the Human Limitation Protocols. "Your species has grown rapidly," Sectar said. His voice sounded like gravel in a metal box. "Too rapidly. The Council has decided that limits must be placed on human expansion." President Johnson read the floating words. Her face did not change, but Jake could see her hands get tight. "These limits," she said slowly, "they would trap us in our own solar system." "For the good of galactic stability," Sectar said. "Humans are unpredictable. You make decisions too quickly. You take risks that other races would not take. This makes the Council nervous." "We've never broken any council laws," President Johnson said. "No," Sektar agreed. "But you have the potential to become dangerous. The council prefers to prevent problems before they start." Admiral Brooks spoke up. "What if we refuse?" Sektar's yellow eyes turned to look at him. "Then the council will take corrective action. We have 200 ships waiting at the edge of your system. They can be here in 3 days." The room was very quiet. Jake could hear his own heart beating through the video link. "Your species shows promise," Sektar continued. "But you must learn your place in the galaxy, accept these limits, and humans can live peaceful lives under council protection. Refuse, and face the consequences." President Johnson stood up. "We need time to consider this." "You have 30 Earth days," Sektar said. He picked up his device, and the blue words disappeared. "I will return for your answer." After Sektar left, President Johnson called the emergency meeting. All of Earth's top leaders came to Geneva. Jake flew down from Titan's Gate to join them. They met in an underground room that no one could spy on. Admiral Brooks spread out star maps on the table. Dr. Carter showed them files about the Council's military power. "We can't win a straight fight," Brooks said. "They have too many ships and too many soldiers." "But we can't accept their limits either," said General Dan Murphy. "If we do, humanity will never grow again. We'll be stuck forever." Dr. Carter spoke up. "There's something else you need to know. I've been studying Council history. This has happened before." Everyone turned to look at her. 17 times in the last 1,000 years, she said. "The Council finds a young race that's growing too fast. They give them the same choice: accept limits or die." "What happened to those races?" President Johnson asked. "Most accepted the limits," Carter said. "They're still alive, but they never advanced again. They became servants to the Council races." "And the ones who refused?" Brooks asked. Carter's face was grim. 3 races refused. The Council destroyed them completely, burned their worlds, killed every last one of them. The room was silent again. Jake thought about Earth's blue oceans and green forests. He thought about his sister and her children. He thought about all the humans who had never seen the stars. "So what do we do?" someone asked. President Johnson looked around the table at each person. "We fight," she said quietly. "We can't live as prisoners. And we can't let the Council destroy other races like they want to destroy us." Admiral Brooks nodded. "Then we better start planning. If we're going to war with the galaxy, we need to be smart about it." Jake left the meeting knowing that everything had changed. Earth was going to fight the most powerful empire in the galaxy. It seemed impossible. But as he looked up at the stars that night, he felt something strange. He felt hope. The Council thought they knew humans. They thought humans would either submit or die quickly. But they had never faced anything like human stubbornness before. They had never seen what humans could do when they had nothing left to lose. In 30 days, they would find out. The countdown to war had begun. President Amy Johnson stood in front of the cameras and smiled. To the world, she looked calm and confident. But inside, her heart was racing. "The Galactic Council has made an interesting proposal," she said to the reporters. "We are carefully considering all aspects of their offer. Earth will make its decision soon." The reporters asked many questions, but Johnson gave the same answer each time. "We are still thinking about it." What the public did not know was that President Johnson had already made her choice. While she spoke to cameras, secret teams across Earth were working on something called Project Wildfire. Captain Steve Walsh led the military planning team. He was a smart soldier who had studied every battle humans had ever fought. Steve knew that Earth could not win a normal war against the Council, but he also knew that humans were good at fighting in ways that surprised their enemies. "We can't match their numbers," Steve told his team, "but we don't have to. We just have to make them regret attacking us." Steve's team worked day and night. They studied human history and found patterns. Humans were best when fighting against bigger, stronger enemies. They won by being unpredictable and creative. The Council expects us to fight like they do, Steve said. Big fleets meeting in space. Formal battles with rules. But that's not how humans fight when we're desperate. Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Carter was making a terrible discovery. She had been reading secret council messages that Earth's spies had stolen. What she found made her sick to her stomach. Carter called Admiral Brooks to her lab. "I need to show you something," she said. Her face was pale, and she looked like she had not slept in days. She put a file on the table between them. "The Council has done this before, many times." Brooks opened the file and saw pictures of dead worlds, planets that were nothing but ash and broken rock. These were the races that said no, Carter explained. The Council didn't just defeat them, they erased them completely. Every city, every person, even their history. Brooks looked at more pictures. Burned forests, empty oceans, cities that had been turned to glass by alien weapons. "But that's not the worst part," Carter continued. She showed him another file. "These are the races that said yes." The pictures were different, but somehow more sad. These worlds were still alive, but barely. The people looked tired and broken. Their cities were small and poor. "The Council has been doing this for 1,000 years, Carter said. "Any race that gets too smart or too strong gets the same choice. Become a slave or die." Brooks felt anger burn in his chest. "How many races have they destroyed?" 3, completely gone, Carter said. 17 more are still alive, but trapped. They can never grow, never explore, never be free." That same day, Lieutenant Colonel Matt Turner was doing something very dangerous. He was secretly talking to aliens who hated the Council. Matt was Earth's best spy. He could speak 12 alien languages and knew how to hide among different races. 4 weeks. He had been making contact with underground groups across the galaxy. The most important contact was an alien named Zurakai. She belonged to a race called the Cathora. They had been limited by the Council 300 years ago. Matt met Zurakai in a dark bar on a space station far from Earth. She looked like a tall human woman, but her skin was silver and her eyes were completely black. "Your people are going to refuse the Council's offer," she said. It was not a question. "How do you know?" Matt asked. Zurakai almost smiled. "Because you are here talking to me. The Council thinks they broke my people long ago. But we have been waiting, building, planning." She showed Matt a small device. It looked like a piece of art, but Matt could tell it was really a weapon. "We have been making these for 300 years, Zurakai said, hiding them, waiting for the right time to use them. "Why haven't you fought back before now?" Matt asked. "Because we were alone," she said. "But now we have humans. You are crazy enough to actually fight the Council. That gives the rest of us hope." Zurakai told Matt about other races that were secretly preparing for war. The Cathera were not the only ones who had been building weapons in secret. There were underground groups on dozens of worlds. "The Council thinks they control everything," Zurakai said. "But they have made one big mistake. They have made too many enemies." Back on Earth, Engineer Ryan Blake was working on a different kind of problem. He was trying to understand Council technology by taking apart captured alien devices. Ryan was one of Earth's smartest engineers. He could look at any machine and figure out how it worked. But Council technology was different from anything humans had ever seen. "It's too perfect," Ryan told his team. "Everything follows exact patterns. Every system has backup systems that work exactly the same way." Ryan's assistant, a young woman named Tracy Adams, looked confused. "Isn't that good? It means their machines never break." "No," Ryan said, getting excited. "It means they're predictable. Look at this ship's computer system." He showed them a captured Council fighter. The computer was incredibly advanced, but it could only think in certain ways. Their computers are programmed to expect logical behavior, Ryan explained. They can predict what most races will do, because most races follow patterns. But humans don't follow patterns, Tracy said, understanding. Exactly, Ryan said. We're too random, too crazy. Their computers can't figure us out, because we don't make sense. Ryan realized that Earth's primitive technology might actually be better for fighting the Council. Human ships were less advanced, but they were also less predictable. Human weapons were simpler, but they could be used in ways the Council would never expect. They've been fighting the same way for 1,000 years, Ryan said, but we've never fought anyone like them before. That means we'll try things they've never seen. As the days passed, more and more humans learned about Project Wildfire. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, and pilots all worked together. They knew they were preparing for a war that Earth would probably lose. But they also knew they had no choice. Dr. Carter found something else in the Council files. A list of other races that the Council was watching. Earth was not the only species they were worried about. There are 4 races on their target list, she told President Johnson. We're just the first ones they decided to deal with. President Johnson looked at the list. If we fight back, maybe the others will too. Maybe, Carter said. Or maybe they'll decide it's safer to give up without a fight. President Johnson thought about this. Then we need to show them that fighting back is possible. We need to prove that the Council can be beaten. The 30-day deadline was getting closer. Every day, Council ships moved closer to Earth's solar system. Their message was clear: surrender or die. But Earth was not preparing to surrender. Captain Walsh had finished his war plans. They were wild and dangerous, but they might work. Engineer Blake had found ways to turn human weaknesses into strengths. And Lieutenant Colonel Turner had built a network of alien allies who were ready to fight. Most importantly, Dr. Carter had found proof that the Council was not as strong as they pretended to be. Their empire was held together by fear, not loyalty. If that fear could be broken, the whole thing might fall apart. President Johnson called one final meeting. All of Earth's leaders gathered in the secret underground room. The ambassador will return in 3 days, she said. We need to make our final decision. Admiral Brooks spoke first. We can't win a normal war, but we might be able to win an unusual war. Captain Walsh agreed. If we can surprise them, if we can make them afraid, we might have a chance. Dr. Carter showed them her research again. The Council has ruled by fear for 1,000 years, but they've never faced a race that refused to be afraid. One by one, each person in the room voted. The choice was unanimous. Earth would fight. President Johnson looked around the table at the faces of Earth's leaders. They all knew what this meant. Most of them would probably die in the coming war. Earth itself might be destroyed. Then, it's decided, she said quietly. We tell the Council that humans will not be caged. We tell them that Earth chooses freedom, no matter the cost. Outside, people went about their normal lives. They worked, laughed, loved, and dreamed. They did not know that their leaders had just declared war on the galaxy, but soon, everyone would know. Soon, the whole galaxy would learn what happened when you tried to put chains on humanity. The Council thought they were dealing with another weak race that would surrender when threatened. They had no idea that they had just awakened something that would change the galaxy forever. In 3 days, Ambassador Sektar would return for Earth's answer. He was going to get a very big surprise. Ambassador Sektar stepped off his black ship feeling very confident. He had done this 17 times before with other races. They always made the same choice in the end. Fear always won. He walked into the same conference room in Geneva, where he had delivered the Council's ultimatum 30 days ago. President Johnson was there, along with Admiral Brooks and the other Earth leaders. But something felt different this time. The humans looked calm. To calm President Johnson, Sektar said in his gravelly voice. I trust you have reached a decision. President Johnson stood up slowly. She looked directly into Sektar's yellow eyes without blinking. We have, she said. Earth respectfully declines your generous offer. Sektar's scaly face did not change expression, but his claws clicked against the table. You refuse the Council's protection. We refuse the Council's. Cage, Admiral Brooks said firmly. Sektar made a sound that might have been laughter. You choose extinction then? How foolish, how very human. Maybe, President Johnson said. But we'd rather die free than live as slaves. Sektar picked up his communication device. Very well. The Council fleet will arrive within 3 days. I suggest you use that time to say goodbye to your families. As Sektar walked back to his ship, he felt satisfied. Another arrogant young race was about to learn their place. The Council's fleet was already moving toward Earth. 200 ships from 12 different alien races. The largest war fleet assembled in 50 years. What Sektar did not know was that human satellites had been watching the Council fleet for weeks. Earth knew exactly where they were and when they would arrive. Colonel Sarah Martinez sat in the command center on Titan's Gate, watching green dots move across her screen. Each dot was a Council warship. There were so many dots that they looked like a green cloud. Fleet count confirmed, her assistant reported. 212 ships. 12 different classes. Sarah nodded. Earth's entire space fleet had only 47 ships. It should have been hopeless. But Sarah was not worried. She was excited. For weeks, Earth's engineers had been working in secret. They had built new weapons and hidden them throughout the solar system. The Council would expect to find Earth's ships waiting for them in formation. Instead, they would find surprises everywhere. Signal from Admiral Brooks, Sarah's communication officer said. Operation Hornet's Nest is approved. All units are green. Sarah smiled. Then let's give our guests a proper welcome. The Council fleet jumped into Earth's solar system exactly when Earth's computers predicted they would. They came out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Confident and proud. Fleet Commander Vex High stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was a tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms. He had commanded Council fleets for 60 years and never lost a battle. Scan for human ships, he ordered. I count 47 vessels, his scanner operator reported. They're hiding behind Earth's moon. Vex High laughed. Hiding already. This will be easier than I thought. All ships, advance in attack formation. The Council fleet moved forward like a giant spear aimed at Earth's heart. They expected the human ships to come out and fight. They expected a quick, clean victory. They got something very different. Captain Nick Foster was hiding in the asteroid belt with a squadron of modified mining ships. These ships looked harmless, but each one was loaded with nuclear bombs and guided by human pilots who had volunteered for a suicide mission. Wait for it, Nick whispered into his radio. Let them get closer. The Council fleet passed through the asteroid belt without paying attention to the harmless mining ships. Big mistake. Now, Nick shouted. 20-4 mining ships suddenly changed course and rammed straight into the Council formation. The aliens had no time to react. Nuclear explosions lit up space like new stars. 8 Council ships died in the first 10 seconds of the battle. What was that? Fleet Commander Vex High demanded. Suicide attack, his tactical officer reported. They used mining ships as weapons. Vex High was shocked. That's insane. No civilized race would waste ships and lives like that. But the surprises were just beginning. Hidden weapon platforms that had been drifting in space like space junk suddenly came alive. They had been built to look like broken satellites and old ship parts. The Council's sensors had ignored them completely. Colonel Martinez activated the platforms from Titan's Gate. All hidden batteries, you are weapons free. Light them up. Laser beams and missiles erupted from what looked like empty space. The Council ships found themselves under attack from every direction. Their perfect formation fell apart as captains tried to figure out where the weapons were coming from. "This is impossible," Vexai roared. "How many hidden weapons do they have?" The answer was, hundreds. For months, Earth's engineers had been launching fake debris into space. Every piece of space junk in the solar system might be a weapon in disguise. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. Dr. Lisa Carter had spent weeks developing a special computer virus. It was designed to attack the biological computers that 3 of the Council races used in their ships. She had studied captured Council technology and found their weakness. Ready to deploy the gift, Carter reported from her lab on Earth. "Do it," Admiral Brooks ordered. Carter activated her virus and sent it out on a normal communication signal to the Council ships. It looked like a standard surrender message from Earth, but when their computers tried to read the message, they got infected instead. The virus spread through the Council fleet's communication network like wildfire. Ships that used biological computers suddenly found their systems going crazy. Weapons fired at random. Navigation systems sent ships spinning in circles. Some ships even started shooting at their own allies. Captain Zeekmer, of the Council ship, Righteous Fury, watched in horror as his ship's guns turned and fired on a friendly vessel. "What's happening?" he screamed. "Computer virus," his engineer reported. "It's in our biological systems. I can't shut it down." Half the Council fleet was now fighting itself instead of fighting Earth. The perfect attack formation had become total chaos. Fleet Commander Vexai could not believe what he was seeing. In 60 years of warfare, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans were fighting like wild animals, using tactics that no civilized race would even consider. "All ships, pull back and regroup," he ordered. But the humans were not done yet. Earth's real fleet finally appeared from behind the moon. 47 ships against what was left of the Council force. The odds were still bad, but now they were not hopeless. Captain Steve Walsh led the human fleet in his ship called Earth's Pride. He opened a communication channel to all Earth's ships. "Remember," he said, "we don't have to destroy them all. We just have to make them afraid." The human ships attacked in ways the Council had never seen before. Instead of trying to fight fair battles, they used asteroid fields as weapons. They rammed damaged Council ships with their own hulks. They fired nuclear missiles that were designed to explode and spread radiation, making space dangerous to fly through. Every human tactic was brutal and unexpected. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it was over, the mighty Council fleet was retreating in disorder. They had lost 93 ships and thousands of soldiers. The human fleet had lost 22 ships, but they had won. Admiral Brooks broadcast a message across the galaxy on all frequencies. His voice was calm, but his words were like thunder. "This is Admiral Kyle Brooks of Earth Defense Command," he said. "The Galactic Council has attacked our homeworld without cause. They have threatened us with slavery or death. This is our answer." The message continued. "Any species that stands with the Council against freedom will burn with them. But any species that stands for liberty will find friends among humanity. The age of Council rule is ending. The age of freedom has begun." Across the galaxy, billions of beings heard that message. For many of them, it was the first time anyone had defied the Council and lived to tell about it. On the Council homeworld, the ruling circle met in emergency session. They had expected to hear about Earth's quick surrender. Instead, they learned that their unstoppable fleet had been humiliated by a primitive human force. "How is this possible?" demanded Counselor Threx, the leader of the Reptilian Alliance. "The humans fight without honor," spat Counselor Mordai of the Insectoid Collective. "They use suicide attacks and biological weapons. They use whatever works," said Counselor Yith of the Crystal Federation. She was the only council member who sounded worried instead of angry. Perhaps we have underestimated them. The council voted to send a larger fleet. This time, they would bring 500 ships and attack with overwhelming force. But something had changed in the galaxy. The humans had proven that the council could be beaten. On dozens of worlds, beings who had lived in fear for centuries began to whisper about rebellion. Ambassador Sektar returned to the council homeworld in disgrace. He had promised an easy victory and delivered a humiliating defeat instead. The humans are not like other races, he reported. They do not think logically. They do not value their own lives above victory. He struggled to find the right word. Uncontrollable. Back on Earth, people celebrated in the streets. They had faced the most powerful military force in the galaxy and won. It seemed impossible, but it had happened. President Johnson spoke to the world from the steps of the United Nations building. Today, humanity showed the galaxy that we will not be caged, she said. We have paid a price for our freedom, and we may pay a higher price yet. But we have also shown that tyrants can be defeated by those brave enough to stand up to them. She paused and looked up at the stars. This is not the end, she said. The council will come again with more ships and more weapons. But they will find us ready, and they will find that we are no longer alone. Freedom calls to every thinking being in the galaxy, and freedom will answer. The first battle was over, but the war was just beginning. In the depths of space, alien rebels who had hidden for centuries began to emerge from the shadows. The humans had lit a fire that would spread across the galaxy. The council had crossed a line when they tried to cage humanity, and Earth had lit a match that would burn down their empire. The news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within days, something that had never happened before began to occur. Races that had been silent for centuries started to speak. General Dan Murphy stood on the bridge of the transport ship, Liberty's call, as it jumped into the Kepler system. This was his first mission outside Earth's solar system since the war began. Intelligence reports said there were alien rebels here who wanted to fight the council. Sir, we're getting multiple signals, his communication officer reported. They're all saying the same thing in different languages. What do they say? Murphy asked. Welcome to the revolution. Murphy smiled. Earth was no longer fighting alone. On the planet below, thousands of different alien beings had gathered. They came from races that the council had defeated or limited. Over the past 1,000 years, for the first time, they had hope. Zara single quotes, Kiev the Cathora was there, along with representatives from 16 other species. When Murphy's shuttle landed, they were all waiting for him. General Murphy, Zarakai said, we have been waiting for someone like you for 300 years. Someone like me, Murphy asked. Someone crazy enough to actually fight, she replied. The meeting lasted for 3 days. Each alien representative told the same story. The council had crushed their people's dreams and locked them in cages of fear. But Earth's victory had shown them that the council could be beaten. We have weapons, said a tall alien named Ket. He belonged to a race called the Vanguard that everyone thought was extinct. We have been building them in secret for centuries. We have ships, said another alien from a race called the Crystalline Collective, hidden in asteroid fields and dead systems. And we have anger, said a third alien whose people had been enslaved for 500 years. More anger than you can imagine. General Murphy realized he was not just meeting with rebels. He was meeting with the ghosts of the council's victims. All of them had been waiting for this moment. Back on Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan was building the new human fleet. Earth's shipyards worked day and night, but they could not build ships fast enough. Then the alien rebels started arriving with their own vessels. The ships were strange and wonderful. Some looked like living creatures. Others were made of crystal or metal that changed shape. All of them had been hidden from the council for decades or centuries. How many ships do we have now? Admiral Sullivan asked her aide. 237 human ships, the aide reported. and 412 alien vessels from 23 different races. Sullivan whistled softly. The Council wanted to fight one small human fleet. Now they're facing a galactic rebellion. The rebellion grew every day. On worlds across the galaxy, people saw what was happening and decided to join. Some brought weapons, others brought information about Council weaknesses. Many brought nothing but their desire to be free. Captain Beth Harrison commanded a human task force that specialized in liberating Council prison worlds. These were planets where the Council kept aliens who had tried to resist them. The first prison world Beth attacked was called Torment. It was a dead rock where the Council kept political prisoners from dozens of races. The prison was guarded by robot ships and automated weapons. "We can't fight our way through those defenses," Beth's tactical officer said. "We don't have to fight them," Beth replied. "We just have to confuse them." Beth's ships approached the planet, broadcasting fake Council identification codes. The prison's computers thought they were friendly ships bringing new prisoners. The automated defenses let them land without firing a shot. "Computer viruses work on robots too," Beth said, as her soldiers spread through the prison. "Sometimes the best weapon is the enemy's own stupidity." They freed 8,000 prisoners from Torment. Many of them joined the rebellion immediately. Others carried word to their home worlds that the revolution was real. Major Alex Stone had a different job. He traveled to worlds that had never been conquered by the Council and taught their people how to fight. Many of these races had stayed neutral because they were afraid. "The Council has 1,000,000 ships," said the leader of a race called the Peaceful Ones. "How can we fight such numbers?" "You don't fight their ships," Alex explained. "You fight their will to use them." Alex taught the aliens about guerrilla warfare, how to hit supply lines, how to spread fear among enemy soldiers, how to make the Council afraid to leave their home worlds. "Make them worry about every shadow," Alex said. "Make them jump at every sound. Make them so paranoid that they spend more time watching their backs than attacking their enemies." The lessons worked. Soon, Council ships could not land on neutral worlds without facing surprise attacks. Council supply lines were constantly disrupted by invisible enemies. Council soldiers became afraid to leave their ships. Dr. Lisa Carter had moved her lab to a captured Council space station. She was working with alien scientists to develop new weapons and defenses. What they created together was more powerful than anything either species could make alone. Human creativity, plus alien knowledge, Carter explained to her mixed team of human and alien researchers. "We think of ideas they never imagined, and they know secrets we never learned." One of their best inventions was a new type of shield that could protect ships from Council energy weapons. Another was a virus that could shut down entire Council space stations. The most dangerous was a weapon that could make stars go supernova. "We will never use the Star Killer unless we have no choice," Carter promised. "But sometimes having a terrible weapon prevents you from needing to use it." Meanwhile, the Council was making increasingly desperate decisions. They had started with threats and ultimatums. Now they were using biological weapons and targeting civilian populations on the world of Harmony. Council forces released a plague that killed millions of innocent aliens. On the moon of Serenity, they destroyed an entire city from orbit because rebels were hiding there. Each atrocity only made the rebellion stronger. Major Tracy Adams coordinated resistance cells across the galaxy. She used secret communication networks to keep rebels in contact with each other. Every day, she received reports of new victories and new allies. "The Council just bombed a hospital on Compassion 3, she reported to General Murphy. "They said rebels were using it as a base." "Were they?" Murphy asked. "No," Tracy said. "It was just a hospital full of sick children." Murphy felt sick. How are people reacting? "Compassion 3 just declared for the rebellion," Tracy said, "along with 6 other worlds in their system. The Council's cruelty is turning their own allies against them." The war reached a new level when the rebels made contact with the Vanguard. These were the survivors of the three races that had refused the Council's ultimatum centuries ago. Everyone thought they were extinct, but they had been hiding in the dark spaces between stars. The Vanguard leader was an ancient being named Kethmer. His race had been fighting the Council for 1,000 years. They knew secrets about Council technology and weaknesses that no one else possessed. "We have been waiting," Kethmer told General Murphy when they met in secret. "Waiting for others brave enough to stand with us." The Vanguard had incredible weapons and ships that were more advanced than anything the Council possessed. They had spent centuries in hiding, building strength for this moment. "Together, we can do more than just defeat the Council," Kethmer said. "We can make sure this never happens again." The combined human-alien Vanguard forces began a series of coordinated attacks across the galaxy. They hit Council military bases, supply depots, and communication centers. Each attack was designed to cause maximum damage and fear. Colonel Jake Morrison, now commanding a joint task force, led a daring raid on the Council's main weapons factory. The factory was hidden in an asteroid field and protected by the most advanced defenses in the galaxy. "This is suicide," his alien's second in command said. "Probate," Jake agreed. "But if we can destroy this factory, the Council won't be able to replace the ships we're destroying." The raid was a success, but it cost them dearly. Half of Jake's ships were destroyed, and hundreds of brave soldiers died. But the weapons factory was gone, and the Council's ability to build new ships was crippled. Similar raids happened across the galaxy. The rebels could not match the Council's numbers, but they could make those numbers meaningless by destroying the Council's ability to supply and support them. The Council's response was to retreat to their core worlds and prepare for a final battle. They began pulling their fleets back from the outer systems, abandoning territories they had controlled for centuries. Admiral Sullivan saw what was happening and realized that the opportunity. "They're giving up half their empire to protect the other half," she told President Johnson. "If we can break their core defenses, the whole thing will collapse." But breaking the Council's core defenses would require a direct assault on their homeworld. It would be the largest battle in galactic history, and the rebels would have to risk everything. "We've come this far," President Johnson said. "We can't stop now." The final phase of the war was about to begin. The rebels had grown from a handful of human ships to a galactic alliance, millions strong. They had proven that the Council could be beaten in small battles. Now they had to prove it in the big one. The battle for the Council's homeworld would determine the future of the galaxy. Either the rebels would win and create a new age of freedom, or they would lose and condemn countless worlds to eternal slavery. General Murphy looked at the star charts showing the Council's core systems. Hundreds of heavily defended worlds, thousands of ships, millions of loyal soldiers. "It's going to be close," he said. "It always is," replied Zurakai, standing beside him. "That's what makes victory so sweet." The rebels began gathering their forces for the final assault. Every free ship in the galaxy was called to join the attack. It would be the largest fleet ever assembled, fighting for the highest stakes imaginable. The age of Council rule was ending. The question was, what would replace it? The largest fleet in galactic history gathered at the edge of the Council's home system. Ships from hundreds of worlds and dozens of species floated together in the darkness. Human vessels sailed next to ancient Vanguard warships. Rebel fighters flew alongside captured Council destroyers. Admiral Kyle Brooks stood on the bridge of his flagship, Earth's Fury. At 73 years old, he should have been retired. Instead, he was about to lead the most important battle in human history. "Final fleet count, Admiral," his aide reported. 3,412 ships from 87 different species. Brooks nodded. It was an incredible number, but they would need every ship. The Council's homeworld of Nexus Prime was the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. "Signal from General Murphy," the communication officer announced. Ground forces are ready for planetary assault, and Captain Foster's suicide squadrons, Brooks asked. Ready to die for freedom, sir, came the reply. Brooks activated the fleet-wide communication system. Across 3,000 ships, beings from dozens of races listened to his words. Today we fight not for conquest, but for liberation, Brooks said. Today we end 1,000 years of tyranny. Some of us will not see tomorrow's dawn, but our children will wake up free. He paused, looking out at the stars where the Council fleet was waiting. The Council believes that fear makes them strong. Today, we show them that hope is stronger than fear. Today, we show them that freedom is worth any price. The rebel fleet jumped into hyperspace, on Nexus Prime. The Council's ruling circle watched their defensive fleet prepare for battle. 5,000 ships surrounded their homeworld, along with orbital weapons platforms and planetary shields that had never been broken. They are fools to attack us here, said Councillor Threx. This is where we are strongest. Perhaps, said Councillor Yith. She had been studying reports about human tactics for months. But humans are dangerous when they seem weakest. The rebel fleet came out of hyperspace in perfect formation. For a moment, both sides stared at each other across the void. Then Admiral Brooks gave the order. All ships, attack. The battle began with the largest space combat in galactic history. Thousands of ships fired at each other with weapons that could destroy planets. The space around Nexus Prime lit up like a new star. But this was not like the Council's previous battles. The rebels did not fight in neat formations or follow traditional tactics. They fought like humans had taught them, wild, unpredictable, and desperate. Captain Nick Foster led his suicide squadrons straight into the heart of the Council fleet. His ships were old freighters packed with explosives and guided by volunteers, who knew they would not survive. For freedom, Foster shouted as his ship rammed into a Council battlecruiser. The explosion took out 3 more enemy vessels, all across the battlefield. Rebels used tactics that no civilized military would consider. They rammed ships into space stations. They set off nuclear bombs inside their own vessels to take out nearby enemies. They turned cargo haulers into weapons and mining ships into bombers. The Council forces, trained for formal warfare, could not adapt fast enough. On the surface of Nexus Prime, General Murphy led the ground assault. Rebel soldiers from dozens of species dropped from orbit in stolen Council transport ships. They fought their way through the planet's capital city, heading for the Council chambers. The fighting was brutal. Council forces had every advantage, except one. They were fighting to preserve their power, while the rebels were fighting for their freedom. Major Alex Stone led a team of human and Kithra soldiers through the underground tunnels beneath the capital. Their mission was to reach the Council's ultimate weapon, a device that could sterilize entire star systems. The weapon is just ahead, Zarakai reported. She was carrying explosives that would destroy the device forever. They fought through waves of Council guards. Many rebels died in the narrow tunnels, but the survivors kept moving forward. They had come too far to stop now. In space, the battle was turning. The Council's superior numbers were being overcome by the rebels' superior desperation. Ship after ship fell to attacks that followed no rules of civilized warfare. Dr. Carter, now aboard the command ship, activated her final virus. This one was different from all the others. Instead of attacking Council computers, it sent a message directly to every Council citizen on every Council world. The message was simple. The war is over. Choose freedom or choose chains. Across the galaxy, billions of beings who had lived under Council rule for their entire lives suddenly had to make a choice. Many chose freedom. On world after world, Council governments fell as their own people rose up in rebellion. The 1,000-year empire was collapsing from within. Back at Nexus Prime, the final phase of the battle was beginning. Admiral Brooks had fought his way through the outer defenses, but the planet's shields were still protecting the surface. We need to get through those shields, he told his tactical officer. Impossible, sir. They're powered by the planet's core. Nothing we have can break them. Brooks was about to respond when a new voice came over the radio. It was Kethmer of the Vanguard. Admiral Brooks, we have something that can help. A Vanguard ship unlike any other appeared beside Earth's Fury. It was ancient and strange, covered in symbols that hurt to look at. What is that? Brooks asked. Something we built a long time ago, Kethmer replied. Something we hoped we would never have to use. The Vanguard ship fired a single beam at Nexus Prime's shields. The beam was not made of energy or matter, but of something else, something that turned the shields inside out and made them collapse. How did you do that? Brooks demanded. Trade secret, Kethmer said. Now finish this. With the shields down, rebel ships poured down to the planet's surface. The final assault on the council chambers had begun. Inside the council building, the ruling circle waited in their fortified chamber. They had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, and they could not believe it was ending. Surrender, Admiral, Brooks' voice came over their communication system. Your fleets are broken. Your people have abandoned you. It's over. Never. Counselor Threx roared. We will die before we surrender to primitives. The council chamber doors exploded inward. General Murphy walked through the smoke, followed by soldiers from a dozen different races. Behind them came President Johnson, who had insisted on being present for this moment. The surviving council members were surrounded, defeated, and alone. You have lost, President Johnson said simply. The question now is what happens next. The trials that followed were broadcast across the galaxy. Instead of executing the council members, the rebels chose to put them on trial for their crimes. Every species that had suffered under council rule was allowed to testify. The trials lasted for months. The evidence of the council's cruelty was overwhelming. But when it came time for sentencing, President Johnson surprised everyone. We could execute these beings, she said to the Galactic Court. We could make them suffer, as they made others suffer. But that would make us no better than they were. Instead, the former council members were sentenced to spend the rest of their lives helping to rebuild the worlds they had destroyed. They would work as laborers and servants, learning what it meant to be powerless. With the council defeated, the galaxy faced a new challenge. What kind of government would replace the old empire? The answer came from an unexpected source. Kethmer of the Vanguard proposed something that had never been tried before. A truly democratic galactic government where every species had an equal voice. No more masters, he said. No more slaves. Just free beings working together for the good of all. The Galactic Federation was born from the ashes of the Council's empire. Earth was one of its founding members, but not its ruler. Every species, from the most advanced to the most primitive, had an equal say in galactic affairs. It was not perfect. There were arguments and disagreements, and occasional conflicts. But it was free. Admiral Brooks retired to a small house on Earth, with a garden overlooking the ocean. He was 90 years old now, and his fighting days were over. But he lived to see something wonderful. Ships from hundreds of worlds passed overhead every day. Not warships or conquest fleets, but traders and explorers and students. Beings from across the galaxy came to Earth to learn about the species that had started the revolution. Brooks' granddaughter, a young girl named Hope, often sat with him in the garden. "Grandpa," she asked one day, "why did the war have to happen? Why couldn't people just be free from the beginning?" Brooks thought about her question for a long time. "Sometimes, Hope," he said finally, "people forget what freedom means. They become so comfortable with chains that they don't remember how to break them. It takes someone willing to light a match to remind them that the chains can burn." "But the match burns up too," Hope said. "Yes," Brooks agreed. "But the fire it starts can light up the whole galaxy." Years passed. The Galactic Federation grew stronger and more diverse. New species joined all the time, attracted by the promise of freedom and equality. Old enemies became friends. Former slaves became leaders. Earth remained special in galactic memory, not because humans had conquered anyone, but because they had refused to be conquered. They had shown that no matter how powerful a tyrant might seem, free beings could always find a way to resist. The galaxy learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their tactics. It was their absolute refusal to accept that anyone should live without freedom and dignity. In teaching that lesson, they had not just saved themselves. They had saved everyone. On quiet nights, when the stars were bright and the galaxy was at peace, people across hundreds of worlds would look up at the sky and remember the small blue planet that had changed everything. Earth had lit a match when the Galactic Council crossed the line. That match had burned down an empire and lit up the galaxy with the fire of freedom. And in that fire, a new and better galaxy had been born. The war was over. The chains were broken. The galaxy was free.